Hello everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 13.
Lucky 13. Let's try to make that a thing.
In today's episode we have an incredible, and when we say incredible, it's like for real.
We mean it. We are super stoked, never thought this would happen, sort of incredible person on here. So firstly, just for context, we were super excited because it was the first time we got reached out to have an interview with a guest.
Story.
And that it feels like a little win.
Yeah, it definitely is a little win. And we were just approached by her PR agency, and it meant the world to us when we found out that she's actually the author of She's in Control, which is this book that is come out already. I think it was last week, and it's about women in technology, how they are underrepresented and why it matters. So if you haven't actually heard about this book and you didn't know you needed it, well, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so go and get it.
Go get it. Do give it a read. And I myself am very excited to be reading it.
Yeah,
very soon. So Anne-Marie was the youngest girl to ever pass an A-level computing, which I think is the grade 12 equivalent. Sorry, I could be wrong.
Yeah. And she was just 20 years old when she received her master's degree in mathematics and computer science from the University of Oxford.
So freaking cool.
She's literally a prodigy.
Literally. So she has a huge wealth of experience and also a really cool pioneering spirit. So we really want to talk about how she co-founded Stemettes,
which is an award-winning social initiative that is dedicated to inspire and promote the next generation of women in the STEM sectors. Yep. Something that we align with truly. We love that, and that's the reason why we were so keen to have her, apart from all the amazing things she's done, obviously.
Yeah, because our values align, and it was really refreshing. And to see someone who has gone and written a book about this, and who has founded something 10 years ago. Yeah. So she's super ahead of the curve as well. But in those 10 years, Stemettes has been exposed to almost 60,000 young people across Europe.
Yeah, and her vision about this community is to have a more diverse and balanced tech community.
Yeah, science and tech.
In recognition of her influence and achievements, Anne-Marie
was awarded an MBE in the 2017 New Year's Honours, which, if anyone doesn't know, this has nothing to do with studies. It's not a master's of anything. It is actually an award awarded to for outstanding achievement or service to the community, and it is called the Member of the Order of the British Empire,
which is pretty cool and pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And this was because of the service to young women and STEM sectors.
Yeah, and it's basically, the award is not only in recognition of past achievements, it looks at the people and says this person will go on to provide a service to the community, and so we think we should award them with this. That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, so freaking cool. She became an honorary fellow at the Keble College.
Yep, in Oxford.
And in 2020, she was voted the most influential woman in technology in the UK by Computer Weekly, which is amazing again.
I can't believe we have her on here. Oh, this is so cool.
So cool and so surreal. She's also spoken across the globe for some of the world's biggest digital companies like Facebook, ASOS, Google, SXSW, and Founders. Founders Forum. And Founders Forum.
Cannot wait to get into this interview with her. And without further ado,
here is Anne-Marie.
Thanks for having me. So I am Anne-Marie. I run a nonprofit called Stemettes, which is all about engaging, informing and connecting the next generation of women and non-binary people to STEM and STEAM, where STEM is obviously the wider science, technology, engineering and maths, and STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. I'm also an author now as well. So I've got a book called She's in Control that's out from 8th of September and available in hardback. And I also am a trustee at the Institute for the Future of Work. I host a podcast called the Women Tech Charge podcast. And I also pop up every now and then on TV, at least here in the UK. I think the show that I've been on, there's a bit of a delay to Oz. So I'll be on Oz maybe in 2 years' time.
Girl, that is so busy.
Yeah, congratulations on the release of your second book. Because I saw that you had another one. You had a math and science one, right?
I did, yeah. So this is my first one for an adult audience. Yeah, the one before was for children, for kind of 7 year
Okay.
olds, called How to Be a Maths Whiz. 7, 8, 9, 6, kind of, yeah, young children. So How to Be a Maths Whiz. And that's kind of, yeah, like practical maths and activities. It's more activities.
Mm.
There's like a whole chapter on food and like the maths of food. So yeah, so this is a little bit different.
Oh wow.
This She's in Control is like a book that's almost like a guide for women who don't think they're technical, or women who don't want to be left behind with the way that things are getting so technological at the moment, or women who feel like they break tech whenever they use it, or anyone that knows women like that. It's a guide to get started, and motivations and history and all the things that you need to kind of summon as you try and step into this technical, as you step on a technical journey, actually. So yeah, that's what that's about.
That is so cool. I guess the first thing, like, it's like two completely different audiences, and I love, like, it does target both the issues, because like when we started STEM, we noticed, like, everyone says you got to start early and educate kids early. Did you always have it in mind that you will eventually write to these two audiences, or like what made you pick first writing to children and then writing for the female audience?
Oh, no, 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 not at all. I mean, you'll have this, like, as opportunities come up, you're like, okay, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? Is this a good stretch? Is this a stretch at all? Does this fit with, what I'm about and the changes that I want to see? And so the kids' book came up, both actually kind of came from publishers. The kids' book came up from Dorling Kindersley, is that publisher. And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, this will be cute. This will be fun. Like, my friends have kids and they can, see Auntie Anne-Marie in the book and like play along with the maths. And then about a year later, then this project came up. And so I was like, yeah, okay, cool. For me, with Stemettes, everything we run is for people aged 5 to 25. I get to talk to so many audiences because I also speak around the world, and folks are always like, oh, I'm older than 25. Please, can I? And I'm always like, well, Stemettes only exists because there was lots of adult spaces that, were late at night and had alcohol, right? And the kids can't access that. So I'm like, go to those. But now my answer can be read the book, because the book tells them to go to those and more. So that's why I've like appreciated having this and being able to answer that and be like, hey, just buy the book. Like, you're old enough to buy the book and go on your own journey of exploration and take the perspectives, the experiences, the skills that you do have, and start your technical journey from there. So that's why I've ended up writing for those two different audiences.
Yeah. So you started Stemettes 9 years ago, roughly. Where did you get the idea? How did you identify the need for a community like that? And I guess where did it all come from, and how is it going?
Sure. So yeah, we'll be 10 next year. We'll be 10 in 2023, which is exciting. So it's going all right, you could say, because 10 years is a long time to be doing one thing. I think initially I spotted it. I mean, it's weird because I have always been into maths and tech. Like, I've always wanted to apply logic creatively to solve problems. And so I was working in industry, I went to university, I went to Oxford, I did maths and computer science. Like, it was always something I was doing. I was one of these child prodigies. So I did exams really early when I was young as well. And so for me, Stemettes kind of came off the back of a realization, actually, that in a lot of those spaces, I was the youngest, I was the blackest, I was the femalist. And so actually, it was one of those things where it's like, actually, this shouldn't have been like reserved to just me. Like, why was it Anne-Marie's thing? And also noticing that then, like, if there's not that many women around here, or not that many people of color, not that many, I mean, obviously there were a couple of young people, but a lot of the meetings I was in, it was like really senior folks who, again, were all a lot older than me. And so I became more conscious, more aware of who was missing from those rooms, who was missing from those decisions, who was missing from those norms and the stories that we were telling about these technical things. So I ended up going to the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing, which is that huge conference in the US for just technical women. The year I went, so these days it's like, tens of thousands of women. The year I went, it was 3,500 women at one place at the same time. And for me, it was such an interesting, like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been missing out on. Like, I've never even noticed, a lot of the time, that I was the most female, I was the blackest, all that kind of stuff. So Stemettes was born out of how empowering it was to be in that space, that majority female technical space, but also wanting to give people that as a formative experience. So if you do that when you're 5 or you do that when you're 10, the way you see the world, the way you see yourself and your space in that world, especially technically, will be really different from if you've never been surrounded by, female, by Stemettes effectively. So that was where it came out of, and knowing that having that community, having that network, having those connections is really important for entering, but also really important for staying and for thriving in these spaces. So that's what Stemettes has been all about, and it's been 10 years of learning how to build that space, how to provide opportunities for that space, like what are people looking for, how to be equitable, to say we're not just going to outline the curriculum and outline the things we want to do, but actually you're a young person in this space, you've come in for a reason, you've brought your own perspectives, your own experiences, your own skills. How do we include that and allow you to shape this community and you to shape what's happening, in addition to the connections and the links we have to industry, to academia, and to entrepreneurship.
Right. Wow. Incredible. Wow. And who was sort of like the team back when you started, and what's the team now? Like, who was the first person that you went and told this idea, and they were like listening and saying like, yeah, we have to do this? Like, who was your big supporter? 'Cause that's key.
Oh my goodness, gosh. Yeah, this is a question I'm going to be asked a lot, aren't I? I mean, it's so funny looking back now, like now it's almost like a blur, right? At the beginning of the 10 years, like I actually started blogging and tweeting about this as an idea and trying to gather people. And there are folks, like the person that looks after we call it beneficiary experience, but like customer experience at the moment, was at the first event. Like, she was a volunteer at the very first event and is still on the team now. It was initially me and a load of volunteers. Now it's 20 people, full and part-time, doing all kinds of programs, all kinds of like research, impact reporting, looking after our partnerships, signing up and hosting events, running our online community, going during our schools program. Like there's lots of people that are on board, and a couple more just joining as well, right? So I think we'll hit 21, 22 by the end of the year. So yeah, it's grown as a team, but I think it was initially volunteers, and there are lots of folks now who are, trustees and on our board and all the rest of it that were there on day one, but lots of newbies, like lots of other folks who have wanted to get involved, who are now, doing the work to ensure that we see the change that we want to see in the world.
If we take like a few steps back, as a child, like you mentioned, being like, a child prodigy and being always interested. And I love that you called it applying logic creatively. Like that is one of the best descriptions I've heard about STEM, to be honest. And how did you, I guess, at what age were like you starting to figure out that, these things came easier to you, or was it people like telling you, oh, you're kind of brilliant? Like, how did that start out?
Girl.
I didn't realize. I think it's one of those things though that like ended up having a head start because I started this so young. So it was one of those things that like, age 4, you're like typing on the computer and you're saving it into Word, and like, she's not Red Riding Hood, she's Purple Riding Hood, and that's because I type purple and all that kind of stuff. And it was probably gobbledygook because I was 4, but like getting creative and being able to do that again, like in those really young years, meant that I don't know that I was like advanced per se. I think it was just something that I invested a lot of time in playing with databases, like more than the normal 10-year-old would have done, because that was what I was playing with instead of dolls. And so it was in primary school, it was kind of parents' evening that then it became, more apparent, right? I'm one of 30. And, the teacher will say it the first time and I'll be like, okay, logically, right, I get where you're going. And then that'll be it. And I've got it because it kind of made sense, right? Maths and ICT makes a lot of sense. And, most of physics does, apart from the stuff that you have to memorize, and a lot of engineering does, right? And so, it's like, okay, cool, that just makes sense. Like I follow along that process, or, that thing counterbalances with that, or whatever it is. And that makes sense. And so it wasn't until then, I'm doing this a little bit faster than others, or, a lot of primary and elementary education is repetition, right? And so what you hear in year 1 or grade 1 is what they repeat again in grade 2 is and so I was like, well, we said that already. Like I heard it last time. What next, And so it was really fortunate that my teachers saw that as like, not disruptive, because many people would call it disruptive, because I'd also be like, yeah, we did it already, I'm just gonna sit here and like, have jokes with my mates and do this. And if you ask and you're like, Amory, what did I just say? I'd like say it back to you better than you said it. And so it was like, okay, cool, like that's disruptive, but actually it's disruptive because she gets it, she's enjoying it, and why don't we see what else we could be doing? So that was it. Like, the message went to my parents at parents' evening. She's driving us up the wall. Maybe we need to give her something extra, something different, something more advanced to do. And I'll be honest, like, I still don't really think I'm better than other people or like that much advanced. I think I just had the right opportunities. I know I wanted to do more. And so they kind of said, there are people that do advanced learning, there are people that do sped up learning. Maybe this is something that Amory should be doing. And my parents kind of took it from there. But I do think, like, I was really fortunate to have that opportunity and to have parents who weren't afraid of me doing that. And I do think, like, there are lots of people that are given the same opportunity to write those exams. Like, it's a lot less pressure sitting GCSEs that you normally do at 16 in this country, doing it at 10. There's no pressure, because if you fail it, what were you doing there in the first place, right? And I think there are lots of folks who, given the right opportunities, would be able to thrive. And we see that with Stemettes now. Like, we have Python qualifications, Agile qualifications, cyber qualifications meant for adults that teenage girls are doing in groups of 10 to 15. Every summer holiday we call them our certification academies, and they're passing it, and it's like no big deal. And these are things that people do, as professional development, they're passing and they're doing as groups of teenagers. So, I think if more people had the opportunity, we could have more child prodigies on our hands.
So that brings me to like a very, very like common question we face. And I'm always a little bit stumped how to answer this, because I don't have enough data going back. Like, we can't possibly say otherwise. But do you think that if your childhood had not been, involved with those databases, or if these girls didn't have that and they just played with like, dolls or whatever growing up, they wouldn't be as good at it? Or do you think it's something innate in you that made you not want to play with dolls? Does that make sense? Nature or nurture, kind of?
Is it nature or nurture? I think it's a combination of both. And I think, there is a lot of, even though we don't necessarily have the data per se collected in that, like, from that perspective, I think there is a lot to say for the types of toys that we socialize girls to play with. And you learn a lot through play. And so I think there is something of like, what are the toys? Like, there's a campaign here in the UK called Let Toys Be Toys. And I think there is something of like, if you're giving them dolls to play with rather than something that maybe is a little bit more geometric, or something that's a little bit more, problem solving, very technical term there. I think those things do add up, right? Those are things that they see as things that they either do or they don't do. And so I think that's really important. It is really important. I think nurture is really important. Nature is really important. But nature, I think, is evenly distributed. This is the thing. Like, it's not just that girls are distributed non-science in their nature and boys are given science in their nature. I think that it's equally distributed, and actually it gets lost in that nurture. It gets lost in that socialization, which is why, with the book, with what I do with Stemettes, we are all about showing that actually where you might have been told the story constantly of women not doing these technical things, we have, Gladys West of GPS, we have Hedy Lamar of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, we have Stephanie Shirley, who's huge here in the UK, we have, Amory Imafidon, right? We've got like people that are alive now that are doing these things. And so actually, we can still edit that, we can still contribute to that nurture, right? We can still have the right kind of nurture that allows people to see themselves, on all the different sides and engage with STEM from that young age. But it's not just about young age, right? So I think that's the other thing that's really important. Like, I know with engineering in particular, if you're not chartered and all the rest of it, that's a big no-no. But actually, we're beginning to see folks being able to take different routes in, and for us to be like, hey, law, you can learn some of the tech and some of the logic. And actually, that would be really useful for law tech, but also be really useful in engineering, right? And so you can bring a different perspective and have a cross-disciplinary approach to things, rather than just saying, you've only ever studied engineering, and so you're ever going to do the engineering, and that's it. And it's like, you're forgetting that the engineering is not for engineering's sake, right? The engineering is for people who aren't engineers to also make use of, or also benefit from. So I think it's really important not to say, just because you didn't get it when you were young, that it's not something you can do now, because it's not, That's rubbish.
I feel like from my experience, engineering is just a way of thinking, of applying the logic and looking at the problem from a certain aspect and solving it like that. And that's pretty much the crux of it. And that's why it's got so many disciplines, but fundamentally they all just have the same approach.
Yeah, it's all problem solving, and it's creative problem solving at that. But I think we get lost a little bit with the, you must know maths, or you must know the physics, and you must have, got this particular grade. And You know, like you can still solve the problems without having some of those basics. And, you know, you never work alone. It's incredibly collaborative. And so, do you know, like it's that kind of thing of being able to value the differences and still get to that end point of the problem solving.
Yeah, I certainly think it's something like in human nature that we like to sort of like put things into boxes, right? It's like it makes us understand behavior a little bit better, and perhaps like when we're growing up, like we do that, like especially with gender roles, like for example, like women are just to do that and men are just to do that. It's the same with engineering. Engineers are only good for like math and science, or sorry, yeah, just math. And that's it, right? It's not like, oh, they can actually work in a team. They can be social and they can do podcasts and they can do makeup. It's like, no, they can only be smart. So it's like we like putting things into boxes because it just facilitates us to understand the world, but it doesn't allow us to be diverse and inclusive. So,
but you mentioned your parents at a very young age didn't have that sort of boxes mentality. What were they into? Like, what did they do, I guess, professionally, or what made them so broad-minded in a way?
I think it's definitely them as people are quite broad-minded. I think, so my dad's an ophthalmologist. My mum was a linguistics teacher to kind of taught English to people. And I think with them, like I'm of Nigerian, like they're both Nigerian, I'm Nigerian too, and Nigerians love education, right? So their thing was always like, whatever the education is, like, let's go for it, right? Like, this is great that she loves the education. Let's just keep going all the education that she wants until she realizes, right? Until she's tired of it. So I think that was the benefit that I had. But I think with them as well, you know, if you want to call it feminism, call it feminism. If you want, like, I'm the eldest of 5, and it's 4 girls and 1 boy. And all of us came before my brother came. So it was also like, you can't be like at home. That's the thing the boys do, and that's the thing the girls do, because there were no boys to do the boys thing. So I think we definitely also benefited from that kind of lack of, especially for me in like formative years, like there was no boy for it to be like, that's for the boys and that's for the girls at home. And so I never really noticed, right? I do also think, you know, there's elements of like, there's a lot of things that I don't notice, which is maybe the computer science and the logic side of me, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I miss or not very perceptive of. Maybe that's why I didn't realize I was the only girl in a lot of those spaces. So I think there's definitely that, you know, worked to my advantage as well.
So it was like never an issue, I guess, like, you know, like interacting with the people when you're going into these classrooms, and that wasn't really something that came up in your head that you're the only girl here, or no one treated you differently because of it?
No, it wasn't something that was a big part of my experience. And I say this at university as well, because I did maths and computer science. I did it at Oxford, right? And so you can imagine, like, in your head what that might be like, right? Harry Potter or whatever it is that you want. But I was never made to feel like the odd one out in those spaces. And when I did feel like the odd one out, it was because of things that weren't gender specific. So, for example, and I've been talking about this a lot, like, God rest his soul, my senior tutor was this, like, the university sponsor of the bell ringing society. As in, you know, like in a church when you like ring bells, that was like his thing that he looked after for the university. And there was a whole society, right, of these people that love bell ringing as a hobby. And the year above me in maths and computer science, there was a guy who was a bell ringer. So they knew each other from the bell ringing society. And in my year, there was another guy who rang bells. And so it's like, okay, cool. I'm the odd one out here, but not for the reason that you think. Not because I'm from East London, not because I'm younger, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm black, because I don't ring bells. And I think it was a really interesting experience for me, and a privilege now, I can say, looking back, that if anyone was going to try and make me feel left out, it was either for bell ringing, or it was because I was a girl, but that wasn't the centre of my experience. And, you know, and it's still something I have now, that's in their head and their problem more than it's my problem. Because I'm not changing my age, I'm not changing my ethnicity, I'm not changing my gender. So actually that's for you to like work out whatever issues you have. But as for me, I'm here studying, or I'm here working, or I'm here, you know, contributing to this board. And so, yeah, you know, I'm not going to change myself just so you can hear what I'm going to say about the database. Like that's definitely on you. So I think that's definitely something as well that I'm lucky that I've been able to take on with me, that, yeah, like, you know, if me being a woman is a problem, that's definitely a you problem. And it means that you're not going to get the best from this, like, talent, right? There's a lot that I bring to the table. you know, so that's on you.
So I take it with the strength of mentality, you never became a bell ringer?
I didn't, but now they talk about it so much, I'm like, maybe I should have. Maybe I'm missing out on something.
That's hilarious. Oh my god. So what is like a favorite memory from these university years? What is something that you, apart from like just being the best in what you did, is something that you like really like remember?
I mean, there's lots of stuff. Like, I have a lot of fond memories of university. You know, some of my really close friends still now are people that I was at university with, and you know, we were constantly together. You know, they were there when we finished exams. We were out, you know, partying and enjoying. I mean, there's lots of fond memories that I have of just being in a new space, right? And being in the Oxford and being like, oh my goodness, as if that's like me, right? Like my name on the wall, my face on the wall, my, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if there's anyone in particular. I mean, I really enjoyed, I mean, I don't know how many people all know Nando's. Do you have Nando's in Oz?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So there was a Nando's. There were two Nando's in Oxford, and there's one like in the middle of town.
Visit.
I will do. I mean, I had a couple of days spare to do it, but yeah, I will do. But there was a Nando's in the middle of in Oxford, and it was, and every building in Oxford obviously is a university building. So I remember like revising for finals and being really frustrated because if you went and sat in the library, everyone was like literally like elbow to elbow, like studying, and it felt like really hot and like a really high pressure situation. So I made friends with the guys that run Nando's in Oxford, and the building next to Nando's was like another like university building. So it meant that I could get the Wi-Fi that I needed. So I'd go in before Nando's opened and I'd sit on the table on that side of the restaurant and I'd like do my revision and whatever. They'd bring me food, they'd bring me tea, like they were amazing. This was all before it opened. And then as it opened, that was like my sign to like finish studying for the day basically and go off and do whatever I wanted to do. So I have really fun memories of that Nando's. Every time I walk past whenever I'm there, I'm like, oh, it's a different team now there. So they'd never give me free tea or coffee or chicken. But yeah, that was great. Also not vegan. So but yeah,
I'm a veteran here.
Really good memories. That was really good memories. Like those are some of them. But it was, the whole time was really great. Like it was 4 great years of, yeah, like just maths. Maths is great. Maths is fantastic. Computer science is awesome. So it was a lot of years of just that.
I know.
Like, you know,
it's so good. Growing up has always been in London for you?
Yeah. East London.
Okay, all right. How was that as an experience? Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm still here now. I'll never leave.
You say that now, but I think when you come to Australia, you might change your mind.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm East London through and through. I'm like obsessed with this part of town. I only ever lived here apart from when I went to university. I do get to travel the world all the time, and there's probably one place, and like and I travel more than, you know, I travel now more than I did before the pandemic as well. It's crazy, but there's only one place that was literally like paradise. In Kenya that I went to earlier this year that I was like, I could maybe do this.
Sohan is from Kenya.
Oh no way! Watamu Tamu. That's like my spot.
I was
Watamu Tamu was my spot. And other than that, nowhere else I could live. On the whole earth.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So whereabouts have your travel taken you?
Everywhere. Other than Asia. So I'm going to Kuala Lumpur. I'm going to Malaysia for the first time in November. But I go to the States a lot, I go around Europe a lot, I get to go to Africa every now and then. So yeah, like that, this way on this side of the earth. But yeah, constantly somewhere. And if it's not outside of the country, it's across the country. So yeah, so most places I've been to. Sometimes it's in and out as well. So like it'll be in Amsterdam for like a day and then I'll come back. Other times it'll be like, you know, I'm in Dublin for a couple of days. Sometimes it'll be like, yeah, I'm off to Miami actually in a month or two. And then New Orleans in January. So it's like there's always somewhere to go. There's always people that need to hear this message from a little black girl from East London.
Definitely. And we're very, very grateful for you to be spreading it around.
Australia now. I mean,
we would love to have you here. Honestly, it would be amazing.
You have to come.
Make it happen. I guess why it was curious for me is you were doing uni at a very young age, from
17.
Comparative to most people. I think you had your master's at like 20.
Yeah.
That is insane. So you had that, like, age, you were different to everyone, color and gender as well. Does we hear about, and maybe it's just because we're not there, so we don't know, but you hear, like, London can be a little bit difficult for, certain races and stuff. Did that ever crop up for you?
I mean, it does. Like I said, it's, for me, it's tough to unpick like what it is that's wrong with me in any particular situation. So whether it is color, whether it is my age, whether it is my accent, whether it is my gender, like for me, there's certain things that actually it's only with hindsight, I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, like it was a little black girl telling him that, and he's never, they've never seen, or, even with Countdown, right? It's like, it's a black woman turning up doing this. And a lot of people have never seen a black person do maths, let alone a black woman do maths. And so actually that ends up being quite offensive, quite annoying, quite frustrating for them to have to watch me, multiply numbers, because they never thought someone like me could do that, let alone do it on such a big TV show, right? That's on daily, that, as part of their childhood, and how dare we have a black person on it. But I think it's one of those things that it's not necessarily something that's got in my way, or not something that I have to carry, or that I do any work to carry. I think I definitely know that by my presence often that is breaking those barriers, and it's making it easier for other people of colour to step into those spaces, or to be seen as mathematical or as technical. But of course, like, I've been alive for 30 years, right? So there's lots of times where it would be like, yeah, someone pulls the handbag away, or someone doesn't think I know what I'm talking about, or someone assumes I'm there to do something different, or tells me, I shouldn't, there was one award ceremony I was winning, like I won't say what it is because people will have to look it up. I was winning like the main award, and on my way in was redirected to a different door from the one that all the guests were going into, because they thought I was coming into work. And so you have things like that happen, but like, what in that moment, what do I do? It's, I'm going where they're going. That's why I'm here this early, because, I've got to do all the press and stuff before the award show kicks off. But then it's also like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, just know, they'll see me, in the paper the next day or whatever. And it's like, yeah, she knew what she was talking about. I think it's definitely something that I talk about and broach in the book as well, because it's not just for me to see and do something about. It's for other folks, right, that have that agency, have that power in positions of leadership, to make sure that you are thinking about that as you do recruitment. You're thinking about that as you run meetings and you decide who you value and how you make your technical decisions. You're thinking about that as you do promotion. You're thinking about that as you do succession planning, right? Depending on on the level that you're at, but also you're thinking about it in the small, not just in the big. So I talk about this a lot when I speak to audiences. It's like, it's not, everyone has a sphere of influence. So learn how to wield that, and learn what you're going to use it for before you become the C-suite, the exec, the big label and the big title, because by then it will be too late for you to start trying to understand how you unpick these things, right? How you change things, how you question, and how you ensure that you've got like inclusive thinking, equitable thinking, diverse thinking as part of your processes and what you do. So don't wait until you're the senior person, or you're the person with all the power and all the influence. Use the influence you have now, so when you get there, it's part and parcel of the way that you operate, the way you do your engineering, the way you make your technical decisions, right? The way that you lead.
So just going back to, I guess, those early years, what was when was the moment that you realized that you could create such like change in your community, and like just for women in general, and even for just the tech industry? Was there like a turning point that was like, nah, like we have to do something about it? Was it like, sometimes I have conversations with my colleagues and I'm like, okay, this is actually something that we all have to think about and we all have to approach?
So for me, it was that conference that I mentioned going to, where there was actually a keynote that was talking about this, and it was really interesting because she was talking about it as if it was an American problem, because obviously she was American, I was in America, and I was like, oh, how interesting that they have this issue here. And then I got back to the UK and was like, oh my goodness, I'm really like, what have you been looking at? This is a real big problem. Like, all the things she described in her keynote are happening here, like at the same time, in almost the same way. There's slight nuances and differences, but in essentially the same way. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, her thing was, you stay and bring a friend in. That was what she asked folks to do as a result of the keynote. And I was like, well, I can do one better. I can do many more better. Let's try this out. And it was originally the Stemettes project. So I didn't know I had the answer. I didn't know that there was going to be the thing. I didn't know, 10 years down the line I'd be here. But I was like, okay, cool, let's give it a go. Let's take elements of what I've seen there, let's translate it down for younger audiences, and let's see what happens. And as you're doing that, you know, you're not just trying to solve a problem, like you need to understand what the problem is, right? And so it was like, okay, cool, like these young people not knowing this is something they can do, here's the impact it's having in their lives, here's the impact it's having in the education system, here's the impact it's having for society, here's the impact it's going to have for our legacy. And so that was when it was like, okay, cool, like there's many different reasons why this needs to be something that is important. This is something that needs to be prioritized. This needs to be something that, you know, is being worked on. And why couldn't I be the person that does it, right? I've done lots of hard things in my life. Here's another hard thing to give a go. And so that was why it ends up being something. But, you know, I mean, it's really good that you're seeing that with your colleagues and stuff. Like I said, like I wasn't really paying attention, right, to that level. I didn't realize, right? You're sat in the meetings talking the tech or talking the engineering. You're not walking past, like looking through the glass doors being like, one of those is not like the others.
Oh gosh, I love that. But I think two questions for me come out of that. The first is for people who I guess are a bit more attuned to this and are not, you know, not noticing it. Would that be like your kind of advice to them? Focus on what you're doing and just let your work talk for you? Like how would they be able to, I guess, create that shift in mindset where they're not just focusing on their differences?
Yeah, so I have this I have a chapter on this in the book actually called Be a Change Maker. But I think it's something it is focused on your work, but I think it's focusing on ensuring that it's not just your work, but that others can thrive around you. Which if you're comfortable and if it's not something you'll notice, it's not something that you're upset about, it's not something that's got in the way for you, make sure that you're able to remove that barrier and allow others to be able to come and thrive and flourish like you have. And I think that's the thing that I've definitely done. You know, there are a lot of things that I get to hear, I get to see, that I'm told from the Stemettes, from the role models and the different people that I get to meet. People DM me on Twitter, all kinds of different things that are happening in different scenarios. And it's like, yeah, these things haven't all happened to me, but that doesn't mean that they're not real. That doesn't mean that it's not an issue. That doesn't mean that it's not systemic. I get those data points. And so I am able to say, yeah, that is a problem, actually, that, you know, those people are being chronically undermined, or those people are not being paid properly, or those people are being looked over for promotions time and time and time again in that company, in that company, in that company, in that company, that person, that person, that person. So I think there is something of, you know, either step up where you need to in your space or support others who are stepping up. Be that ally, don't be be that active bystander, and ensure that you can make change, like I said, in the sphere of influence that you have. So that's definitely what I call on folks to be able to do, because it's not right that the only women in engineering are the hard-headed ones who don't notice that they're the only ones. Like that's, you know, that is in itself, like we know we need the people that aren't as hard-headed. We need the people that do notice, right? We need that difference and that diversity of thought, even within the women that are coming into this space. So yeah, so it's definitely for all of us to be able to open up this space, because engineering's fun. Tech is fun. This is great, man. It's an awesome place to be in.
You talked about, being active bystanders, or like, you know, having people who are like change makers or looking out for people that might not be able to. Do you think if you look back, you had people doing that for you on the side and that helped you out, or?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it sponsors more than mentors. And we talk about this a lot with Stemettes, but like, I think as women, we're almost over mentored, right? There's a lot of advice out there. There's a lot of help and there's a lot of kind of support, but actually you need the opportunities to apply that advice. And so I had a lot of people that were sponsors that, you know, advocated for me when I'm not in those rooms, you know, that put me forward for that promotion, that told me, you know, who I needed to talk to get something to happen, who, you know, said, okay, we're not going to be here. We're going to let Anne-Marie lead this database conversation, right? Or, you know, she can't be on stage. Even going to the conference, actually that very first conference, it wasn't my spot. It was someone else who got 2 spots on 2 different panels. And she said, Anne-Marie, you're much better at this thing. You know much more than this. Why don't you come and you sit on this panel and I'll sit on the other one? And that was how I ended up going. And so I think, you know, life is about like opening up those opportunities, and people say putting down the ladder, but I think it is something like, what do you have the agency to do for others? Like, what's your sphere of influence to say, I'm going to have this person lead this meeting, or I'm going to have this person act as a mentor. I'm going to have this person, you know, be our voice and represent us. I'm going to have this person take to that stage. I'm going to put this person in for that award. You know, there's all these opportunities, all these times and all these spaces that we can be the one that says that person's name, right? And puts them forward and suggests them either in your place or not in your place for things that are happening. So yeah, definitely, I think be a sponsor, but also, you know, work with those folks and appreciate when those opportunities come. it doesn't mean say yes to everything, but I think evaluate them and be like, you know, is this going to be something that I could have never done for myself? And how am I going to take this as an opportunity to then get to, you know, increase my sphere of influence or increase my reach in engineering, or, you know, try something new and develop a new skill.
You've done so many different things that are not completely, but they are very different from each other. You know, the writing the book, the podcasting, the speeches, the engineering. That's almost reinventing or learning a new Anne-Marie at each stage. How did you find, you know, breaking...
So they're all connected. They're all connected. They might look like they're unrelated from the outside, but they are all connected. I think for me, ultimately, and again, not to talk about the book a lot, but this is why I've written the book. Like, I don't know if you've seen the film Hidden Figures. Have you seen that? Right? And there's this scene in the film. So do you remember, like, one of the big scenes in the film is she's gone to this library, right? And there's this protest happening outside, and she's gone to pick up this book on, I think, Fortran is what she goes to pick up, right? And she comes back to work, and she can see that these big IBM computers are being brought in, and it's like, I'm a computer. That's a computer. Like, what are we doing here, right? And so what she does is, before that, she picks up this Fortran book, and she comes and she like slams it down on the table, and she's like, girls, this is what we're learning, right, for what happens next. And then you kind of, the closing scenes of the film, you see they're the ones, right, that are tapping up, that are plugging things in, they're punch carding, they're operating the computers now. And so I think for me, everything that I'm doing is I can kind of see almost what happens next, right? I can see this, like, if we don't have women as part of these conversations, I can see what will happen where, you know, we'll end up having robots that maybe kill ourselves, right? Or we end up in a scenario where we don't want to be. And so for me, it's really, really important to ensure that we do the things now and do everything we can now to avoid this, you know, dystopia, Terminator 2, Black Mirror type eventuality.
Just regarding your book, how long did you take in writing that? And honestly, what was like the most challenging thing about writing that type of book? What was like your fear?
It took ages. It took ages. It took forever. It was the whole thing's been really challenging. We'll see though. It's been launched. I'm staying positive, but yeah, writing a book is not like releasing a line of code or even launching a social enterprise. Is a whole nother kettle of fish. So yeah, it's been a different skill, right? It's been a new thing to try, stretch me in a different direction, but it's been fun. I made sure that I had other voices. Like, that was something that was really important to me as well. So there's about 15 different people across the book in addition to my voice. But yeah, like it's been a hard slog, but I already know it's been worth it from kind of early reviews and folks kind of that have been in touch who've read it pre-release. So yeah, like a lot of work to get all your thoughts down, to have them like ripped apart by editors, to then, you know, try and get it condensed down, and then try and, you know, there are some jokes that need like facial expressions that actually when you write them down, they're either not funny, or you have to then explain a whole load of stuff, or you have to use exclamation marks, and they don't like that. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been fun, and it's out, and it'll all be worth it once it's in the hands of lots of different people.
Yeah, congratulations on the release. We're really looking forward to read it.
Yeah, we are, certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. It was lovely to speak to you both. All the best.